My name is Dianna Singler, and I teach high school, Hickory Ridge High School in the Learning Connections, which is a program for students with high-functioning autism. So they get a regular general diploma, so they are held to the same standards as everybody else. Now, you're probably looking at me and going, I thought she said recent graduates. Well, she did. I made a complete career change in December of 2012. I went ahead, I was doing NASCAR marketing and PR, I was doing all this fun stuff, and I said, I'm going to become a teacher. Was I thinking, right? No, I wanted to do it. I made the decision, and people are thinking, you're crazy. You know how much money you make? I'm like, yes, I do know how much money I'll make, and I'm still getting into it because I think it's important to do. So I graduated in May of 2015, and I actually did all my classes online, every single one of them. I'm a mom of 2 kids. See, look. I needed that online. And then, so there's 9 classes, and then you can get your master's in 5 more. So I'm happy to say that at the end of December, I will have my master's because I kept going. So I didn't want to be 10 years down the road and going, oh, I wish I had taken those 5 classes and have to start all over, because you don't want to do that. So what I did was I graduated a long time ago from the University of Florida with public relations, and I worked with NASCAR. And then often when my administrators come into the room, they'll see me teaching, and then they'll go, you have a lot of patience. How do you have a lot of patience? I'm like, have you ever worked with a NASCAR driver? You have to have a lot of patience to work with them. So many people think that sometimes when you take online classes, it's not as personal, you don't get as much from it. But you get in what you get out, and that's with any class, whether it's here on campus or it's online. You raise your hand, you get involved, you chat with your classmates, you get phone numbers, and you text about the teachers behind their backs, and they don't even know it. And then in your text chats, one time I had a hard time grasping a concept in one of my classmates, and you build the relationships, and they were like, go to the fridge. I'm like, to get a beer? And they're like, yes, you're overthinking this. You need to stop overthinking. So, it's stuff that you can do online that, you can't do at school, and probably most of the students now aren't even old enough to do that, but I was and am. So when I thought about what I learned most from UNCC and what I was able to do most applicable in my classroom now, I have to almost go back to the first class, the Intro to Special Ed. And when you learn that all disabilities are different, like I said, I teach students with high-functioning autism. Well, if you teach one student, if you have one student with autism, you know one student with autism. They're not alike. Not one of my students is alike. So you have to learn how to teach them the same, right? You got to teach. They all have to learn the same thing, right? Well, what I learned here is, do some of them need differentiated instruction? Sure they do. And at UNCC, I learned to make the lessons apply to all, or at least to most, using that differentiated instruction and using the data to make adjustments as necessary. And what we learned at UNCC was collecting this data and using it to structure lessons was very important to do. Because if the students aren't grasping it, you need to go a different way. And then sometimes when I get observed, they'll be like, well, you just move, like boom, 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 from this to this to this. So I know that I need to keep it while the same, I also have to change it up. So, my students now, they need help with, comprehension and inferences, and then all that I learned too in the teaching reading for learners with special needs. If any students, I know Dr. Flynn's not here anymore, but she was phenomenal. Because my students, if you said the runners were out on the football field and their feet got wet, they wouldn't understand that perhaps there was dew on it. But unless it says there's dew on the field and the shoes got wet, they're not going to understand it. So it's my job then, and UNCC has taught me how to reach out to them to help them understand. And the UNCC classes teach you these strategies. And that is all the instructional part of it. What you also learn is classroom behavior management. And it prepares you in so many ways on how to do it. I've had 2 classes in it. And you can't just grab things from a bag of tricks. You have to try it, and you have to use your data. And you have to, steps are taken, interventions you have to follow to help the students learn and create environments. And they talk about safe, nurturing, and educational. Those are what the three things you learn here when you're at UNCC. So, thank you.